Okay, so welcome back to this installment of the Macbeth close textual analysis section of this resource and these videos. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look through an extract from Act 1, Scene 7. This is when Macbeth, he's written to Lady Macbeth, and at this point he's vacillating between what to do. Should he go ahead with the murder, or should he cease this plan? And he hasn't met with Lady Macbeth yet, and so he's just here on his own, reflecting on whether this is the right thing to do or not. So let's have a look through this. I'll quickly read through. Well, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. Actually, I'm going to read to the halfway point, or more or less the halfway point, and then we're going to analyze it, and then I'll read through the second part and we'll also analyze that as well. So let's begin with the first section here. So if it were done, when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be-all and end-all here. But here upon this bank and shoal of time, well jump the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which, being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. Okay, so let's go through more or less line by line. So to begin with here, if it were done, 'tis well it were done quickly. So, if I'm going to do this, let's get it over with. Let's go for it. Let's do it. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, sibilance there, that but this blow might be the be-all and end-all here. Okay, so let's break this down because this is a little bit tricky. So if the assassination could trammel up consequence, trammel means to usually to like bind the legs of an animal, so it's an idea of linking. So if the assassination was going to be linked to success, this blow might be the be-all and end-all. So just the act of killing Duncan, that would be it. If it were to lead to success, so that's a hypothetical scenario. You'll notice there this phrase be-all and end-all, that does originate in Shakespeare. I think there's at least 50 or 60 very commonly used phrases that originate in Shakespeare, and maybe another few hundred that are kind of used every so often that originate with Shakespeare's language. So this is one of them, be-all and end-all. So that's what he's thinking now. Well, if it was just going to be the murder and that was it, then okay, that would be fine. But here upon this bank and shoal of time, so at this point he's on the bank. He hasn't gone into the river, but he's on the bank. Like, he can still make the decision to go in or to retreat back to land. Weld jump the life to come. So he's looking forward, looking at what could potentially play out, what the consequences could be. But in these cases, we still have judgment here. So this is the thing. There is still judgment. There's potentially divine judgment and there's human judgment as well. That we but teach bloody instruction, which being taught return to plague the inventor. So I'm not sure exactly how teaching fits into this, but this idea of something bloody returning to plague the person that carries it out. We're talking about consequences here, and that obviously links to the idea of judgment. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. So the idea that justice is going to be a consequence here for the person carrying out this act. And again, we've got another phrase here that comes, common parlance in our language, poisoned chalice. So meaning something that the chalice is obviously something that you drink from. It's seen as like a kind of beautiful cup usually, or kind of glass. But if it's a poisoned chalice, it's something, you pick it up, it looks beautiful, but it looks attractive, but actually when you drink from it, it's poisoned. So we've got another piece of Shakespearean language that is used in our day-to-day speech. So it's the idea, he's potentially going to poison himself through this act. Okay, so let's move on to the second half. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, then as his host, who should against the murder shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity, like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim, horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other. Okay, so let's go through this fairly swiftly. So, he's here in double trust. Duncan is there on kind of two levels. He's there as his kinsman, so his family, his leader, and so on. So I am his kinsman and his subject. So Duncan is his family and also his subject. But also, he is his host as well. Duncan is also staying with Macbeth. So there's two things that are really kind of standing in the way ethically against this murder, or two things of maybe many other things as well. But and Macbeth says, who should against this murder shut the door, not bear the knife myself. So I should be the one protecting Duncan, never mind being the one who actually kills him. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear and great in office, that his virtues will plead like angels. So Duncan has been so virtuous, so capable and just in his own work, that this virtue makes it even worse. That virtue is going to plead to the gods that this is a completely unjust act. It's not like he's getting rid of a despot or a horrible tyrannical king or a mad king or anything like that. He's getting rid of a really good, just king, and that virtue will kind of plead to the gods. Trumpet-tongued, okay, so it's going to plead loudly against the deep damnation of his taking off, against this damnable, deplorable act. So, and pity, like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast of heaven's cherubim, horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. So, pity is personified here, and basically said pity will blow this act in everybody's eye. It's going to be something everyone feels a great sense of pity for. Tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent. So something I'm going to come back to in a moment, but there are a few kind of horse riding metaphors really in this. This idea, the spur, the spurs that riders have on their shoes, boots rather, to basically prick the horse to get the horse to run faster. He doesn't have that. The only thing he has is his vaulting ambition. So ambition is personified. It's personified as vaulting, so jumping upwards. Where we see the pole vault in athletics, jumping upwards high into the air, and that's this idea of the characteristic of his ambition. And his ambition is overleaping itself. It's a little bit too much basically. So it falls on the other, so it's going to fall on the other side. So this is a key quotation here, vaulting ambition. This is something that's associated with Macbeth for some reason. Well, not for some reason, for a good reason, but it's just a quote that comes up a lot when we're talking about Macbeth. There are other quotes, but this is the one that comes up really, really often. So it's just this idea of, over ambition here. Okay, so the only motivation he has is his ambition, and this really is kind of actually drawing him towards the idea that perhaps this is not such a good idea. Duncan is this virtuous king. Macbeth doesn't really have a motivation other than ambition, and at the beginning of the extract here, there also will be unintended consequences, unpredictable consequences. The murder will not be the be-all and end-all. There will be other, events that unfold after that, and he's aware of this. He's looking into the future, trying to think of that, where this chain of causation is going to lead to. And as I mentioned here, we've got multiple kind of horse riding metaphors within the language. So we've got we've got vaulting on a horse potentially. We've got pricking the side of his intent and the spur. Again, that's from horse riding. What else do we have here? There's another one somewhere at the top. Trammel. Yeah, I mentioned that is used often when it comes to like binding the legs of animals. I think it can also be linked to horse riding as well. I'm not really into equestrian myself, but I'm sure that word is associated with horse riding. Anything else? Yeah, so those were a couple of them there. So I think those kind of horse riding metaphors, they might also just in terms of semantic field, they might also suggest hurry. There's this notion of hurrying into action, which is perhaps suggested by this, and this passage kind of is a point at which Macbeth is kind of slowing down. He's considering, do I just steam ahead with this, or do I actually take a step back? So that is a bit of analysis on this passage. I think the main quotation there will be vaulting ambition, but you see some other really nice turns of phrase. Be all and end all, poison chalice. I actually really liked this. Here upon this bank and shoal of time. It's such a nice way of conceiving of time. That right now I'm on the bank, the river is flowing in front of me, and I can either kind of jump in and go along with wherever that's going to take me, or I can take a step back. And that's the situation he's in now. And that's a really good metaphor in terms of time. So we'll leave that there, and in the next video I'm going to come back and I'm going to analyse a little bit of the relationship between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth that we see right after this quotation. And you can see at the end of the extract here, she enters and says, "How now? What news?"